Studying the architecture of the past is like studying the masons, the inhabitants, and all the humans around the creation of a building, through details, fragments of decorations, and of masonry. Let's see what Italian specialists are doing in Paphos, in the house of Orpheus, with Dimitris Michailidis.
I'm Dimitris Michailidis. I'm the excavator of the site here, known as the House of Orpheus. The House of Orpheus, in fact, is the latest phase of a series of buildings here, going back to the late 4th, early 3rd century before Christ. It takes its name from the mosaic of Orpheus, one of the most beautiful mosaics in Cyprus. There are other mosaics too, but Orpheus is the most impressive. In this last phase, it's a very wealthy house with the mosaics. It has private baths and also many movable objects, which you will see later in the storerooms, which show the wealth of this house. Unfortunately, this was the site of a lot of stone robbing and destruction. Significantly, during the Second World War, when this area was the station of the Royal Air Force, and they dug for stone and other material, also for rubbish. So, unfortunately, a lot of the architecture is completely gone, or in most cases, it's been chipped to get blocks. So we only have the edges, the decorated edges of many things. I am not a specialist on this kind of archaeology, of architectural decoration. So it was arranged that my colleague Monika Rekowska from Poland, she made an application for funding, and we built this team with the Italian colleagues who are the specialists on the subject.
So my name is Monika Rekowska, and I'm a professor at the University of Warsaw in Poland. And it was in 2017 that we were walking around here with my friend Demetrios Michailidis and also my really close friends Patrizio Pensabene, Leonora Gasparini. We were walking around the area, the whole archaeological site, and once when we came here at the House of Orpheus, we had this sudden but brilliant idea to do something with such a magnificent place and such a magnificent architectural decoration that we are working on, because we met with Patrizio and Eleonora in Cyrenaica. So we asked Dimitrios if he wants us to do this. And he said, okay. So I decided to write a kind of project. And the project was accepted by Polish government. And so the project is financed by National Center of Science in Poland. And I knew from the very beginning that my collaborators will be Italians, because I know them very well and they are just excellent, Patrizio and Eleonora as well. So that's the story, the short story, to be here and to work together.
I'm Patrizio Pensabene from the University of Rome La Sapienza. I'm a specialist on architecture, and our aim here is to give an idea how the house was in antiquity. So we study these elements, architectonical elements, capitals, cornices, and so forth. And we are here with a collaborator, Eleonora Gasparini, from the same university, and with Tommaso Chiaramida, who designs the elements. Work in Cyprus since 4 years, and we came here just to study the relation between Alexandria of Egypt and Cyprus and the Cyrenaica. My young colleague, is specialized on architecture in the Cyrenaica. So Cyprus, Cyrenaica, and Egypt, Ptolemaic Egypt, had the same culture in a way.
My name is Eleonora Gasparini. I come from Sapienza University at Rome, and I participate as co-investigator in the project on the House of Orpheus here in Paphos. I'm a specialist in Roman architecture, and especially on housing architecture in Roman times, and mostly on the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, which means obviously Greece, Asia Minor, and Levant, and also Cyprus. So here I'm studying the architectural decoration of this complex and trying to understand the evolution of fashions and styles, and also how the history of this place changed through architectural decoration. I like very much this experience, this working experience here. Well, Paphos is a marvelous place because it has such a rich history and obviously marvelous natural landscape. I like this peculiar culture, which is local Cypriot. I can recognize this very specific atmosphere, but also Mediterranean atmosphere, which is marvelous for me.
Hi, I'm Tommaso Chiaramida, and I'm a student of archaeology in Rome, and I'm studying at La Sapienza University, and I'm about to finish the specialization school, and more or less on next December I will be finished my studies. And I'm here for the first time in Paphos and more in general in Cyprus, and I'm working with the equipe on the documentation and about the drawings on the architectural fragments. Well, this is my first experience in this special island, so for my formation it's very important to be here and to study, to working here, and I hope to be here in the future and continue this is important experience for me.
The House of Orpheus, as I said, although it was damaged because of stone robbing, gave a lot of finds. This here is only a portion of it. Of course, there are lamps, which are very common. Also very rare are hot water bottles, for which Paphos is famous. Until these new ones were discovered, the only known water bottles of the kind were found together by chance, and they were world famous as a unique collection of these objects which were used for medicinal purposes, which we will also see in the museum. But the House of Orpheus has brought to light many more, which shows that they were quite widespread, used in the town. Not the face, but we have the ears, shoulders, elbows, hands, chest, breasts, everything. The interesting thing is that these vessels were made in two parts. The lower part was an imprint from a human body, like a hand, for example, a real one, and the top was made to look like a hand. So you knew exactly what part of the body it was meant for. And as you can see, they are made of very, very thin clay, very pure clay, so that they would transmit the heat, presumably, to the body. Yeah. And for an example of the lower part, because this is the top part, we have a fragment of an ear. This is an example of the lower part. This is an ear. We are missing the outside. We have just the beginning that would close it, but the inside is well preserved, and you can see the detail and how this was molded on a real ear. Very unique objects. The House of Orpheus has yielded a vast number of lamps of all types, from early Hellenistic to mid-late Roman. There are some of them here, but the most important is a big polylichnon, the equivalent of an ancient chandelier, with many wicks burning at the same time, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but I'm also pointing out at this lantern, which is again from the House of Orpheus. This was a way of carrying the lamp at night or any time so that it wouldn't go out from the wind. They would put the lamp inside and carry it. The polylichnon, there are not many in the ancient world, but they're always important pieces. We don't know if they were votary, for ex votos, or they had another function. This comes from the central space of the House of Orpheus, and it's particularly interesting because it has on its top representations of Egyptian gods, Serapis, Isis, and Harpocrates. It is very realistic as a boat, but also underneath there is the inscription Ileo Serapis, the sun Serapis, the famous, the well-known Egyptian god. So it is one of the most special objects from the House of Orpheus. Another common find in the House of Orpheus were terracottas, unfortunately very badly damaged during the stone robbing. They destroyed most of them. But even so, some have survived in a decent condition. Here we have a very beautiful theatrical mask with holes on the side. And here we have a series of terracottas. Most of the ones on the top row come from the House of Orpheus. Venus features very prominently. And Eros and Apollo, that's very beautiful. One of Apollo, and that, although the head is missing, is probably the most important because it's the personification of the Tyche, the good fortune of Alexandria.